In the stillness of a late September night, inside Alabama's death chamber, a man who once terrorized a small town with his desperate addiction faced the consequences of his actions. For 27 years, Geoffrey T West sat on death row, appealing, denying, and reliving the moment that changed so many lives. On the night of September 25th, 2025, his time finally ran out. But how did a young man, barely 21 years old, end up taking the life of an innocent mother for nothing more than drug money? And how did those final hours before his execution unfold? This is the story of Geoffrey West, his crime, his last moments, and the irreversible pain left in the wake of his choices. On September 25th, 2025, Geoffrey T West woke up knowing it would be his last sunrise. His execution was scheduled for later that evening at Holman Correctional Facility in Atmore, Alabama. The atmosphere on death row was heavy as guards followed protocol, escorting him through the motions of his final day. Inmates around him remained silent, aware of the fate awaiting West. Unlike older executions in the state, which relied on lethal injection, West was put to death using nitrogen hypoxia, only the second person in U.S. history to be executed by this method. According to WBHM, witnesses described a sterile, silent chamber where every move was under close observation. West wasn't alone in those final minutes. He had chosen to have his spiritual advisor, Patrick Madden, present with him in the chamber. According to WBHM reporting, Madden approached carrying a rosary, standing close by as West was strapped to the gurney. When asked by the warden if he wished to make a final statement, West offered a brief but unmistakable response. "No, sir," shaking his head. KBTX and WBHM both confirmed these were his last spoken words. But he did communicate in another way. As nitrogen gas was about to flow, West turned his head toward the witness gallery. According to multiple outlets, including WBHM and the Associated Press, he gave a small thumbs-up gesture to his attorney, a final silent acknowledgement, before the mask sealed tightly over his face. Outside the chamber, another statement came to light. In a written note released through his attorney, West expressed remorse for his actions. He said he had been baptized earlier in 2025, and he offered thanks to Cat West's son for his act of forgiveness. According to WBHM, this written statement was meant to speak where his final words did not. When the nitrogen began to flow, the witnesses saw West take deep, audible breaths, followed by irregular gasps. His body twitched and shifted against the restraints. Reporters for WBHM and the Associated Press noted that these visible movements lasted for several minutes before his breathing slowed and his body became still. At approximately 6:25 p.m., the warden pronounced him dead. The long legal battle, the years of appeals, and the controversy over his case had come to an irrevocable end. For Cat West's family, the moment marked the closing of a nearly decade-long ordeal. For those who opposed nitrogen executions, the night was another point of contention. But in the chamber itself, Geoffrey T West left the world with a shake of his head, a written apology, and the silent presence of a rosary at his side. Let's talk about the crime and case. Geoffrey T West's story begins not at the prison gates, but in 1997, when he was just 21 years old. At the time, West was heavily addicted to drugs. His addiction had taken everything from him: his job, his freedom, his judgment. He had already served time in prison and was out on parole when he made a decision that would alter his life forever. West had once worked at a gas station and convenience store called Harold Chevron in Atala, Alabama. Though the station no longer stands today, back then he knew its layout well. He remembered a cookie jar hidden behind the counter, one that always held a couple $100s in petty cash. Desperate for drug money, West told acquaintances about his plan to rob the store. But this time, he warned, there would be no witnesses. On the night of March 27, 1997, his girlfriend, Amy Pierce, agreed to drive him to Harold's Chevron. Armed with a .45 caliber handgun, West entered the store. Behind the counter was a 33-year-old clerk, Margaret Parrish, a wife, a mother, and a member of her local church community. West ordered her to lie face down on the floor. He then grabbed the money from the cookie jar, but before leaving, he shot Margaret in the back of the head, killing her instantly. Minutes later, he fled the scene with Pierce behind the wheel. The crime shocked Atala, but investigators quickly developed a theory. The stolen cash had come from the hidden cookie jar, a detail only a former employee would have known. West also couldn't keep his secret. He bragged to friends both before and after the crime, sealing his fate when one of them reported him. The case was solved in under 24 hours. During the trial, prosecutors emphasized how quickly West had confessed to others. His girlfriend, Amy Pierce, also testified against him after pleading guilty. She received a 35-year prison sentence, but was released years early. In 1999, a jury voted 10-2 in favor of the death penalty. Even his own lawyer tried to argue for life without parole, but West silenced him, reportedly saying that if he wasn't found innocent, he didn't want to spend life in prison. And so, he received the sentence he had invited: death. Over the years, West filed appeals, but none were successful. As the decades passed, the victim's family endured repeated reminders of the tragedy, while West's name faded from headlines. Until now. Margaret Parrish, also known in some records as Laney Margaret Parrish, was just 33 years old. Reports describe her as a devoted mother of 2 boys, a loving wife to her husband Rodney, and an active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Those who knew her remembered her warmth, her faith, and the light she brought into her family's lives. The randomness of her death, her life stolen during a simple shift at a local gas station, remains a haunting reminder of how addiction-fueled desperation can destroy far more than the addict's own future. Once again, we're left with a story where drugs, desperation, and reckless choices cost an innocent life. Geoffrey West's execution may bring closure to some, but it cannot erase the pain endured by Margaret's family. In the end, one truth remains clear. Behind every crime, there are countless lives forever changed. Thank you for watching this case breakdown. If you want to stay updated on more stories from death row and beyond, make sure to subscribe to True Crime Briefing and turn on notifications so you never miss our next release. Until next time, stay safe and take care.